Yes, please. Jackie?
Yeah, it's Jackie.
Yes,
Just
please.
a bit of scene setting for this particular session.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're talking through ICOS and how the information arrives there, but there's two separate phases. There's obviously phase one, which will be that brokers will continue to sort of process through, if they use DRI, through their own broker systems as they do at the moment. But there's also where you can add it onto the portal directly with effect from the 1st of June. So do you just want to cover that bit before we go on?
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Sorry, what was the
Yes.
question? Because this session is it's predominantly oriented to giving an overview of what the portal will look like from a broker perspective. We understand from phase one, there will be both the broker and LimbClaim will be within the scope.
Yeah, but I think it's a bit of scene setting for this session.
Right,
what
okay.
is it we're hoping to get out of this session?
Fair enough. Yeah,
what
are
are you showing, and what are you expecting as responses from the people on the call?
Sure. So if you go back to the agenda slides, Charles.
Sure.
If you don't mind. So the aim of this session is just to give an initial overview of what the broker what the portal will look like from a broker perspective of ICOS. It's just giving an overview of ICOS in general. So that's what Charles had given before, just to give context of what ICOS is, which is a DPS solution for the claims system. From a broker perspective, so this is what the session is about. Should only be brokers on the call. Is if you were to use the portal and not LimbClaim, what screens there will be in the portal in order to submit a claim transaction, then there would be processed by carriers downstream. And the focus area that we have between global and London market, which is what Charles was showing before in those circles, is just showing the difference between how a claim is structured between global and the London market. So when you got global, it's more claim and settlement are two distinct processes, while on the London market between Lloyd's, Allianz and Lerma, it will be transaction based, whether it's an advice or settlement. So, and all the screens we're going to see from now on, it's they're basically just wireframe of the portal itself. If you were to use the portal to create your transaction in the London market, those are the steps that you will be completing before releasing the transaction to a carrier.
Okay, so again, just to sort of say, this gives an overview of ICOS, but if you have submitted via DRI, you can also access the information directly into ICOS, and people have logins to go in and have a look.
Correct, yeah. So claims or transactions being released by other streams, i.e. DRI, LimbClaim, will be visible as part of the mix and match within the portal in ICOS, so that I guess carriers can action the transaction either from the portal through Writeback or other systems that are in scope.
Thanks. And just to say that any queries, it'll be people going directly into the portal for queries as well.
Yeah, we do have a slide at the back of this presentation. It talks about queries because it's a bit of a new feature that we introduced compared to what it is in scope today.
Okay, thanks.
Jackie, thank you for that. Did you mention something about the 1st of June then?
It's the 1st of July. This is going to be live from
1st of July for the London market. Is that still what we're aiming at?
Yeah, so class ECF will be no more from that date.
Okay, thank you. I must have missed that at some point. Thank you.
All right. Any more questions? Thank you. I'll just continue with the broker journey.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, as just mentioned by Jackie and Massimo there, this is the main portal that you can interface. You can use it in conjunction with the digital LimbClaim and a call messaging, also with Writeback going forward as well. This is phase one, as originally mentioned. On this portal here, what we aim to deliver will be you have the portal pages, as you're going to see. Then you're going to have additional features such as validations, reinsurance. Will be able to conduct it here. You'll be able to add any salvage or recovery information in via the portal as well. Now, bear in mind that these are wireframes, as mentioned by Massimo. So what we're going to see here, there may be some differences with the actual products. So just bear with us. Don't take it as gospel what you see on the screens. As we make changes, we'll obviously communicate with the market. And I'll go into the. So this is the dashboard. This is your landing page. This is landing page for brokers. When brokers come onto the system. On this landing page here, you would see your transactions with your top carriers in the main page here. You see them, and it will be broken by number of release claims, urgent claims, overdue claims. On the side panel on the right here, you see all queries that are related to claims you're involved with. Also on the top here, you have a notification bar. So if there are any notifications outstanding for you, you'd see it's in red, and then it will be able to search for that notifications. On the left side panel, as you can see, you've got the dashboard there. You can jump from there and go into your claims, policies, insureds, or straight into your queries on the left there. Now, at the bottom panel, part of the main screen here, will be all claims you're involved with. So you'll be able to arrange these claims to your own satisfaction design. But currently, the default will be in a chronological order. It will be ordered in, and you'll be able to make some searches here using your UMR or the UCR, which is the unique claim reference or the unique market reference, and make some searches over here. You could also arrange by the carrier, class of business, and the status of the claim. Now, as you can see here, also you see some statuses of the claim. Some are queried, some are agreed, and that will be what you get as well, including sanction status.
Charles, sorry,
yes,
we just had a question. I don't know whether you can see the chat bar, but
yeah.
Stephen's just sort of said, do you only, is this per user or save to people have different permissions so they can see their own and other people within their team? How is that displayed on this dashboard?
So each person will have their own logon, so they will be logging on the portal with their own account. But the data that you see in the dashboard will be across their organization. So it will be all the transactions will be released by the organization, queries on the organization. The same would be for the transaction below.
And who's responsible for setting those up, those permissions?
The permission will be, the responsibility setting the permission will be, each organization will have an administrator who will be setting up their users and granting permission as needed.
Thanks.
And that will be across all the DPS products.
Okay. You happy with that? Good. Sorry. So now the next page we have here is we're going to show is the policies page. We thought we'd go through this one first, just to show you how we can search for policies. So you could come in here and search for a policy. On this screen here, what you have is the policy has been opened up here. When you search, you've searched for the policy, and it comes down, and you can see the rich information, some good information that will give you an idea who's in the policy. The insured is there. You've got a unique market reference and all the binding authorities and things like that. I'll come to your question, Jerry. At the panel here is if you have multiple policies involved, you can see the different policies on the panels here, and you can actually expand and view more details regarding that policy. From this screen here, you will be able to create a new a new claim or a new transaction. Now, Massimo will correct me if I'm wrong here, but in phase one, this information would only be pulled through from the ICOS, which is the premium platform, so may not contain the rich risk information that will be on the risk platform, which I believe will not be available on Go Live.
That's correct. Yeah. So Charles,
Yeah.
because during phase one, only the premium, so IPOS will go live with ICOS. So the policy information will come from IPOS, and in phase two, once the risk or the CDR is also going live, it will also incorporate the data from IROS.
Thank you. So Massimo, we have a question from Jerry Howe about how does this work with conflicts? I'm assuming the views of the dashboard. Is that right, Jerry?
Yeah, that's right. So if you're seeing the whole organization, if someone's got a
Yeah.
conflict with someone else, then I guess we need to figure out how we can stop other people looking at certain data.
Yeah, is that conflict across the different, I guess, brokers codes?
So we could have two people in the same team that are working on different losses where they're business conflicts of interest. So one person's working on one claim and then another one's working on another claim, and they shouldn't be seeing, like Chinese walls, I guess. They shouldn't be seeing what's happening across.
No, I understand. Yes, yeah, we would be adding a feature on the conflict of interest that would be across the portal, and it will also then be cascaded out on the carrier screen and also for TP for Lloyd's as well.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. 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 Let me just go back one. So if you have any questions on this tab here, you can create a new claim for the policy, and that will take you into the create new transaction page. So it's called create new transaction, and for obvious reasons, because we're dealing with claim, these are just claim transactions we're dealing with. This page contains rich information, so you can enter the claim reference here. So the unique claim reference can be entered in this page. You also have an indicator here. So if it's F0, you have the first note advice indicator here, yes or no. If it's a subsequent transaction, this would have defaulted to a no anyway. So you also have a toggle button here, which is, do you want to include a settlement with the transaction that's been created? Yes or no. Then you have other information related to you guys, the brokers. You can enter your own internal claim reference, as well as the main contact within the brokerage. You then have further information being added. So it's a big screen, so we had to split it into two, and I'll walk you through the individual fields in a subsequent screen. And in here, you capture things like the date of discovery, date broker you were notified, and date you notified the slip lead. And also you have the options to select which bureau this transaction is related to. So if you have multiple bureaus on your policy and the claim spreads across those bureaus, you'd have to, as today, create a separate transaction for each of the bureaus that are impacted, and here you select a separate the individual bureaus. Just on that point, the unique claim reference and the transaction reference can be shared across the bureaus as well, unless and in here you'd also have, am I right, Massimo? I'm correct about that, yes?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah.
Yeah, okay. And the type of transaction, whether it's a normal transaction or bulk settlement. Now for Lloyd's, it would default to normal, but it should be left open for ILU and I believe Lerma as well. And then you also have the electronic submission indicator. This is how the transaction is triggered, whether it's electronic, paper, or it has been transited from paper to electronic. And you also have another toggle button here, which is the cedent in liquidation button. So these are the key fields. As you see there, you should be familiar with most of them. If you have a question on Anything here? So you have unique claim reference, transaction reference, bureau, first advice, including settlement, and then you have for claim details, you have the policy reference, which is the unique market reference, your claim reference as a broker, and the dates I just mentioned. Yes, we have a question from Sony. What happens to the batch broker who releases class in batches and not online?
Is that when transaction are created using the, I guess, lim claim, because those are the two main going in phase one?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
Charles,
so those one, yes,
so all the handlers within the team, they create a class and they release, and that all is released in one go from our system, and it hits the underwriter system in batches. We don't
yeah, so
get it to class portal every time to enter any transmission.
yeah, so that will stay as it is, because essentially it's the lim claim release,
Yeah.
then it's been used. This session that we're having now is if you were to create it, if you have to create a transaction using the portal instead of
Okay.
lim claim.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we will have
But
additional
lim
session
claim,
in the
but
future
lim claim
about lim
remains,
claim.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Charles. Thank you so much for that clarity.
Okay, we have another question from Ian about the electronic submissions indicator. Do you have?
Yeah, so that flag in there. So that some of these flags are what is currently in the tool today. The way to identify whether the submission was done on paper or electronic. As we move in towards the digital world, I guess some of this indicator will disappear, but we need to retain them for historical data.
Okay, thank you. So the next phase on your claim journey will be uploading of any documents related to the claim. So you'll be able to upload maybe you got from this the emails you receive from the insureds, any proof of loss you've received from the insureds, any document related mainly to that particular claim, to that claim transaction. Now these documents are uploaded and they will be stored in the IMR. And as you can see on this page here, you already have a drop down here on the sidebar where you can see details of the claim you're working with. So all the information you started entering in your previous page will be brought across. Any files that have been uploaded, you'll be able to see here, and you'll still be able to browse files in your own share folders and upload them and have a little metadata option here to describe that particular document. So it's just two fields on this particular screen. Okay. So Jackie, just to confirm, yes, there will be.
One question. Is there any size limit for loading things?
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you say that again, please, Rup?
I said, is there any size limit, like, more than that, we can't upload documents?
I'll have to get back to you on that unless Massimo knows this.
It will be the same permission as you have today in the AMR, so it will not change. So whatever you upload today in terms of sizing, it will be the same in the future, but we'll publish the size for guidance as we get closer to the release.
Okay.
Can I just add to Jackie's question about single entry? I think as Kanchi was trying to say earlier, we would batch interface in here. So we have our own system that we would enter the unique claims reference and the claim details once. And then the interface that we have with ECF now, so presumably the same at ICOS, would create 3 records for us here. So we wouldn't be loading 3 times individually. So as long as we can get our batch interface to work in the same way as it does now, then I'm assuming we would still only do 1 entry in our own systems that would travel and split into 3 entries on this new system.
That's correct, yeah, because that that batching you're doing in your system is not using the portal.
Yeah.
So this portal claim or transaction creation, it's only if you're not using your own system, you would be logging on into a web-based claim system and creating manually transaction after transaction.
Mm-hmm.
If you're using your own system, you do your usual batching. That will be through limclaim messages, and it's not within this presentation, I guess.
Yeah.
And we'll have a separate session on limclaim in specific.
Yeah. And just to add to that.
Sorry, oh, sorry, go on, Jackie.
Sorry, it's casual.
So
just to add, it's fine. So Jackie and I have been in some meetings with Velenetic to talk a little bit about phase 2 and whether, you know, when a call does come in, whether it's something where we would want to have some like grouping reference. But it's obviously down to the broker's discretion as to whether they want them to be separate entries, whether we want to group things eventually. But that's things that are still under discussion at the moment. But it may end up being that if you're grouping things in a certain way, that it would be able to carry on forward into phase 2.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, the only thing I was going to say, so I mean, it's been asked a couple of times, so I understand that those of us that use kind of batch or limclaim messaging, that nothing's going to change as far as that's concerned for the time being, but we actually just get the benefits of what this portal has to view in terms of the visibility, right? In terms of the queries and that landing dashboard and things that where we might normally get messages back. I say benefits. I mean, I'm sure there will be, but those of us that do it as we currently do, we're not changing as of the 1st of July. That's correct, isn't it?
It is correct, yes.
Yeah, fine.
The main benefit,
so the mix and match,
is the mix and match. So if you do create your transactions today using your own system, you will also be able to see them in this portal as transaction.
Perfect, thank you. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Just one thing to clarify though, so any of the additional activity over and beyond your limclaim process that happens in the portal, that would obviously have to still be done in the portal because the limclaim message itself is not changing. So there may be some instances where you will use limclaim to create the claim, but if there are additional functionalities that you are wanting to use, such as like the queries, for example, then you'd have to log into the portal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Just keep an eye on the time. Okay, so after you've uploaded your documents, we then move on to the part of the portal where we add more rich detail on the loss and policy. A lot of it will be defaulted from the policy that you've pulled across, but you may, as brokers, want to add maybe internal policy references on this page. Double check the information held on the policy details are correct. As you can see, the claim details on the side panel are open. That just gives you visual of what's in the claim so far. And if you want to see the uploaded files, there's a drop down here where you can open up as well. On the screen here, you can pull through the insured limits, sum insured or the limits, and excesses. These are optional as well. And also you can pull the value of the subject matter of the insured. So this is things like maybe aviation or marine, I think, use that. Yeah. So more information on the loss detail.
Sorry, yes, just to be really clear as well on that previous slide, any information that's being edited in relation to the policy, it will not be anything that is from the CDR in phase 2, or any fields that are being built that are going to end up being used by the CDR, because we would want to have the source as the version of truth when it comes to the placement CDR, and so it's only any additional information over and beyond that which you could potentially edit in here.
Yeah. So as mentioned by Kajal, most of this should be defaulted from the core data record. And here the loss details, these are details that will come through high level class of business, the risk code that are related to this particular loss. You have name of the loss, country of loss, and then you can add detailed information about the loss as well. So you got the loss location, the name, if it's got a vessel, name and registration. If you understand, if you have the loss date, you have the opportunity to provide the loss date in here. Then you have loss date qualifiers. I will double check if these are all correct, but they look correct to me. Actual loss date, date of claim made, date of discovery, and then you have some optional information here. Loss details. This can be a reference to an uploaded file, but this has to be, some information has to be entered into loss detail, so we can understand the loss itself. An indicator here to determine whether it's a war loss. And on this page, you also have the option of being able to select a lawyer representing the insurers or an adjuster at this stage. Now, all that I've just shown you here. So on the policy details, most of this will be pulled through from the policy information. As I mentioned earlier, it will come in primarily from ICOS in phase 1, which is the premium platform, and then once we get risk information, most of it will be pulled through from there. And the risk details fields are here as well.
So one question very quickly.
Yes.
On one of your earlier screens, you actually showed, and I know they're only example screens, you actually showed the policy type as being a binding authority. Are we talking about, I mean, if ECF for class is being turned off, this portal is for both binder, for those using portals, it is for both binder and open market and everything. Is that correct?
It would be, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Now, this next page may be renamed from reserves to financial details. So I'll use the reserves for now. And this is where you capture the reserve amounts. You have the selection of the currency. If you know the reserve amount, this is where you capture it. So you can actually toggle whether you know the reserve amount or not. If you don't know the reserve amount, you'll be able to still be able to choose some outstanding qualifiers. Loss data, supplication, salvage expected, and average information there. Some of these screens may be different. I've got a question there that says, can we add more than one currency? On the reserves, I would say yes, you can add up multiple
We can
currencies.
add multiple currencies, yes.
In here. So you can have reserves in multiple currencies in here. And then you can add additional.
So just to add, so that's probably a benefit going forward, right, for the broker community, because right now you've got a restriction with CASA where you're only allowed to capture 3 currencies. So in this case, you'll be able to capture more than that now. Going forward, there's no restriction.
Thanks. Hi, John. Now, if we are including settlement as part of this transaction, you then be able to add the order settlement in here with VAT as well, if applicable, and if it's been settled in a separate rate of exchange from what's been captured here, then you do have a different rate of exchange and ability to capture a separate currency here. And also you have additional notes, and as you can see here, there's the add another currency button in here as well. We can also indicate if the entry is non-cash. Yeah. So as you can see here, these are the fields that will appear on the screen, and this is for each currency, so you can capture multiples as we mentioned over there. Any questions around the financials? Okay. The next page here is the release page. This is where you will capture the original signing number and date, and any additional premium sign-in references you'd like to include and additional details in here. And in here, you would have a confirmation that this is ready to be released. Now, again, on the side panels, you see the information we've captured on the financial details in the page before, so it gives you a reminder of what you're about to release. You can look through the claim details, policy detail, loss details, and any files that have been uploaded. So this can be, you can do a quick check without having to go back to the other pages. At this point, you can either save a draft and come back to it later, or release the claim. Do you always need, so we've got a question from Julie saying, do you always need a sign-in number and date? I would say yes for now, at the risk of being shot. Massimo?
That is correct, yes. In order to release the transaction, there will be some validation that will require an OSND to be entered.
Okay, so even if it's like 2 days after inception and it's not ready yet?
Yeah, for phase one, there would be validation on ICOS on the premium side. If the premium information not available, then the transaction cannot be released.
So I think that's something to think about for phase two then, because obviously when we don't have a signing number and date, we then have to start sending emails to everybody, which is clunky. And I think most people would hope it could be included on the system. So that they're aware of it. So the premium's not paid, but here's a placeholder that you've got a reserve coming as soon as the premium has arrived or the signing number and date's in place.
So on phase one, because on the digital platform, the risk platform will not be ready, the only way would be for us to check, validate we have a policy in place, will be from the premium platform. And then that means we need to have a
phase one is not ready, but I think it should definitely be considered for phase two.
Sure. I'll put that note down.
Yeah, we're taking.
Otherwise, that's a step backwards because that's currently available for IOU and Lerma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Presumably, there would, if it's not available for phase one, there would be an agreed workaround with DXC, so it won't hold up any claims.
Okay, we've taken them now, so we can look at these offline and respond.
Good. Yeah. Okay.
So essentially, processing the transaction without having a signed premium.
Yeah, I think as somebody just said, I didn't catch who, or it's on the chat. Yeah, we can do it now for Lerma and ILU, but
that will continue. That's still possible for ILU and Lerma, but it'll be a delink signing, or do you do it for unsigned risk completely for Lerma and ILU?
Unsigned.
Unsigned. Okay, we'll take that up then.
I mean, sorry, it's Steve Step. Question regarding signings: do these need to be cash signings as well? Because currently you can use a delink signing for Lloyd's.
No, that's fine. It'll be still allowed delinked ones. That's fine.
Okay,
but we have
currently delink doesn't work for delink signing doesn't work for ILU or Lerma at the moment.
Yeah, that's been looked into. We've got to do validations and stuff that will allow you to do advices on delinked signings.
Okay. All right, so I was just going to show you this button here, which says, is it an entry? Is the entry non-cash? Yes or no? But, okay. And this is the
sorry, just to add to that. So I think the question there is, in Limplum, you can't state that at the moment.
Right.
So I think Velenetic have taken the position with the market. I think it has already been said that the current messaging will stay as is, so there will be no new fields that will be introduced there. So
correct.
In order to be able to determine that, you would have to go into the portal if you did want to potentially say it's a non-cash
transaction. Yeah, that's absolutely correct, Kajo, because during phase one, the current messaging will stay as it is. So if it doesn't support it today, it will not support it on phase one.
And just to add, so the reason being is because obviously they are meant to be transition state, so it doesn't make sense to update something that eventually will not be used. And with us trying to move towards a more digital phase 2 approach, and I think that's why that stance has potentially been taken across Velinetic.
Yes. I suppose similarly, the only thing we want to say is we certainly don't want any less service than we have at the moment. So it is how that's managed.
So how are you managing it today?
I'm going to have to rely on somebody else to step in on that one.
It depends. I mean, I was going to ask the question about that non-cash flag. Are we saying that the settlements are non-cash, or is the signing a non-cash? What are we saying at that stage?
It's on the settlement, so it's not. Yeah, it's on the settlement side.
To do that, all we can do is put in the narrative that we want it to be processed as a non-cash when it comes to Lloyd's.
Yeah.
And
essentially the same will continue
behind the scenes as a non-cash.
Yeah. And the same will continue in the future, because as you don't really have an indicator today in the message in the limb claim today. It will not be in the future, so you will still be able to put the same narrative in the message, and then it should be processed the same way as it's processed today.
I mean, what's the downside of changing the message, but having it set up that if it's not populated, fine, but if it is populated by brokers who want to change their messaging structure, then it will also work?
It's not been looked at the moment, as Kaja was saying, because they are transitional messaging. They will be retired at some stage. They are being kept as they are.
It depends, right? So if you are wanting eventually some sort of MI data off the back of it to say, how many were non-cash, etc., setting it in the portal would potentially help with that, right? Because all the data is somehow being saved behind the scenes and in some shape or form can be accessible. So if you are wanting to be able to do some analysis off the back of it, then it makes sense to do it via the portal. But there's nothing stopping you from still thinking about enhancements you want to make to your own internal systems, because during phase 2, you would want to eventually start using some of these things that are in the portal and actually bringing them into your own internal system so that you're ready to set them there. So I guess it's just down to each organization, but in the case for phase 1, if you're using LimClum, you definitely won't be able to set it there, and you'd have to go via the narrative route as per today's process.
All right. We have another question from Jerry. Jerry, how does CAP work? Does CAP work in the same way? That's single agreement claims agreement process for Lloyd's. Yes, I'll say yes.
We're looking at how the agreement and triage epic will work with the portal. So we'll cover on the SCAP and the other agreement rules in a separate session.
Yep. Okay. Right. So we're now moving on to queries, the query process. So there's a new query session which we enable new brokers to receive and respond to queries in real time. From my understanding, brokers will not be able to raise queries, but will be able to respond to queries. So carriers and Velinetic technicians will have that ability. On the query side, you'd get the information to help you identify the claim. You'd also see any active queries you have, and on the right side of the main page here, you can see the query correspondence going on between the broker and the carrier. Yes. So these queries, I believe, Massimo, will these queries go to a specific broker?
It will be on
the
organization.
organization.
It will be on the organization level.
Okay. Organization level.
I mean, that's that. From my perspective, that's probably not manageable from a large broken house to have all queries just going into one pot.
Yeah.
Okay. They should be able to filter on the different recipients. We can look, I guess that we can narrow down where the queries are directed to for larger organization.
I mean, we shouldn't be expecting brokers to go in here and look for queries. The queries, I think, should really be, by raising the query in there, something should be fired off to the broker to let them know that there's something there. We shouldn't be expected to go in there and look for queries every day if there are none.
There will be notification on the queries that a query has been received because of restriction. It will be on the organizational email address.
Yes.
But if everyone's getting their own individual logins,
are you saying that everybody's going to get a notification? Because that could be a lot of notifications.
No, it will not be everybody getting a notification. So as part of the onboarding, there will be a generic mailbox and is recorded for each of the organization, and that mailbox will be receiving the notification about the query.
Yeah, I think from most organizations, large ones would switch that off. You wouldn't want hundreds of emails into a generic box. I think you definitely want the ability to be able to search the queries on an individual person basis or team basis. So again, a list of queries for a large organization, as others have said, is too much. So we definitely need to be able to ensure we had a filter by person.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if the smaller brokers would want a notification, obviously they could leave it switched on. So if someone is only getting one query a week, I can see why they'd want a notification, but 100 queries a day, 200 a day, then we wouldn't.
Yeah. How are queries raised at the moment? Sorry, this is just my knowledge.
At the moment, we use reports. So again, we've spoken about batch interfacing and limclum. So we would actually get a list of queries on a daily basis, and then the handlers would pick them up, pick up their section by their name. So we wouldn't go in looking at queries here.
Presumably that the same reporting, because just listening to the blueprint presentations the other week, the reports that everyone gets currently, they will still continue to get. Is that correct? Someone from the team?
Yeah, sorry.
I think a lot. I was going to say, I think a lot of the reports aren't they possibly built in house with the terms of the queries. I mean, our software kind of we can go in and see what they are from there. I don't actually know of the query reports that you're talking about, even though we are using limclim.
Yeah, I think it might be both. So, but certainly we get reports from DXC or
Velonetic. Yeah, so if the report is prepared
create our own
by
in-house,
Velonetic, the same report will continue in the future, because for the reports as well will be like for like. But we're taking a note down on these queries and how they should be channeled to get the right recipient so they can be a bit more targeted in terms of notifications. So we'll come back with a proposed solution on how they would work.
And with the actual query itself, the back and forth that we're looking at on this particular screen between the user and Velonetic DXC, is that handled through the portal, those conversations, like through that little type of message field at the bottom?
They will be through the portal, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So fine, thank you.
Okay.
So we wouldn't get a limclim back with a query like we currently do.
We're looking on how we have a separate epic on limclim, then we'll cover all the functionality that it's in use today. So that should cover the same if you're receiving it in the current feature.
As long as there's no additional fields that are being added into the portal for a query.
So we will be able to load any document while responding to query.
So there is no feature at the moment to load additional documents,
Yeah.
because when you load an additional document, it would be a new transaction essentially, then it's being created.
So currently,
and it will be released.
Okay, so currently, if class gets queried, so for example, underwriter is asking for some information, and we have received from client. So that client email, we go and load it again on the same query, and because the class isn't queried, we can go inside the class and load it. So here we are saying we won't be able to load any document while responding to query.
It will be the same process today, because when you load a new document in class, it will be re-releasing the transaction.
So we can currently load new documents onto the IMR. If a query has been raised by an underwriter, we can load new documents or attach documents to the IMR currently. So are you saying that we can't do that going forward?
Can we?
Massimo, wouldn't that be via the documents tab?
Yeah.
It will be. But we need to look at. Sorry, the way the IMR it will interact with ICOS is being looked at the moment. So it's likely it's going to have the same behavior as you have today. So you should be able to load a document in there to then appear on the queries.
Because if we can't do that, that could be a big problem, because we often have to load new documents, whether it's lead agreement or something else, to that particular message. Also, can we delete documents easily as well? Because at the moment on the IMR, it's a bit of a pain to get documents removed. But I don't know if it's easy just to go in and remove a document.
We know it. So we're looking at the document management epic at the moment as well, which will cover just functionality about the IMR and how the documents are loaded and retained.
Okay. Thanks.
I mean, the journey here is just to show you what ICOS looks like. So there are going to be different streams that are working on the IMR, as mentioned by Massimo, and we've taken taking note of your questions about queries and about documents here, and we will try and address them on those particular journeys. Yeah. So that was the questions side. Do we have any more questions related to these slides? Yeah.
Yeah, I've just got one. So currently, at Aon, I'm not too sure if this is across the board, so maybe Colin might be able to confirm that, but we get daily email messages called ABC messages, which give us an update on when underwriters have agreed, so the leader, XCS, Lerma, ILU, which companies within Lerma, any that are queried, and it's actually got a query on this. So we get messages coming directly to the person who's on the ECF message. So whichever broker it is, it will go directly to those. Will we get something similar to that?
I have to learn on you.
Where are these emails coming from?
Good question.
They're probably generated off the back of LinkedIn messages that come into the system, and then there's something in your internal system that creates the email. That's what we have at Gallagher.
Yeah, that's right.
That's
right. Yeah.
So, Colin, the messages we get at Aon, are they specific to us, or is it something similar to across the market?
It has just been said. They're coming from the bureau, and then our system picks them up and sends them out. But we do have the email address or the contact details, and presumably on the portal, as you've got a log-on ID, it's not beyond reasonable that you'd have an email attached to the log-on ID anyway.
I think for WTW, I think we could have that, but we don't. So I think some people use that email notification and some don't.
Okay.
I mean, on ICOS, we do have a notification tab, but we'll let you know how that will work. But
yeah, we will have to cover that separately on the LimClim. So we plan to have a session on LimClim specifically, with a separate epic from a capability perspective. So, Charles has been looking at the portal, so he's more familiar with that. But LimClim, we've got a different BA, so we'll be running a session separately.
Okay, so thanks. I think this has been very interesting to see what it might look like going forward and how it's been developed so far. But would definitely be interested to have a few people on the call when we are looking at LimClim and batch options as well, because I think we would use both, and the batch more than the online.
Absolutely, because I think the majority of brokers will be using LimClim, do batches rather than using the portal. This session is really purely on the portal to display how it will look like and to give you an idea of the steps to create a transaction for the London markets.
Yeah, we do use it sometimes, so it's a useful session. But thank you.
Okay. Any other questions at all? Okay. If there are any other questions, I'd like to say, thank you very much for your time, and if you need any part of the recording to review it, we're going to distribute that at the end of this session, so you can review it. If you have any other questions, you can reach out to myself, Charles Irinde, or to Massimo from Velanetic, so we can then respond back to your queries.
Okay. Thank you.
Great.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank
Charles.
you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.